In this video, I want to talk about the terms that are there on the board in the back, the poetic moment, and also the captivating concept or phrase. So it's good to have a list of ideas or words we'll work through. We want to keep them at just the right amount, not too many. Don't need to add concepts or things that uh, don't really help us through this material and to see how poets write. But definitely anything that is here and transferable to a lot of other poetry we should talk about. And the, the poetic moment is that moment in an experience where something just sort of lights up in the way you're looking at what's happening, and you realize there could be a poem about this. It's really that simple, but it's just the hard part is recognizing that. All right, you need to have your filters on so that not everything looks like a poetic moment. But many times in your life, maybe more than you think, when you learn how to see it, you can you can realize, with from a certain angle, or if you took that moment, that physical moment you just experienced, and maybe expanded it, scaled it outward to deeper layers of life. You could use it as a center around which to build a poem. And I want to talk about root cellar that way. There are some other things I want to mention about this poem, but Theodore Retzky's root cellar is an example of this. You can imagine him walking into an old house. Maybe it's the house he grew up in, or maybe it's his own. Who knows? Maybe it's just a house he has visited, and then you open the cellar door in that time. Um, the cellar was used to store the produce and the preserves and the food, and to smell the rich dirt and to see the darkness in there, right? And to go in there and to realize that some of the potatoes, some of the vegetables had actually been trying to send out roots, right? And to think how hard it is to kill life that is anchored into the earth, life that is in an, an envelope of a sympathetic ecosystem, and how much that life fights. Fights for the light, it fights for the dirt. That cellar is almost a breathing thing. And to realize that, to say, I can talk about how life is living here under the levels where life usually exists, down into the loam of this sustenance, for living things, for natural things, and to hear it almost breathing, and there's again, I don't know exactly how Redkey, developed this poem, but I can imagine myself having a moment saying, "This is something people resonate with. This is something that I resonate. This is more than a cellar moment. This is a moment where I am thinking about the strength of life, how life will fight for the light, how it will fight for its own existence, and think of how people fight. Think of how people fight for life, whether it's to better themselves materially or to just what I mean by that is health and to strive to survive. And I would say that's the concept that can be captivating concept. Now sometimes it will that concept can take on a certain phrase, a certain set of words that just are beautiful, and you can build a poem around that. But what you don't want to do is just build poetry around sounds that sound good, words that are interesting, and then then it's adjective hunting. You're trying to like describe a moment that's not poetical, but you're trying to bring rhyme to it or description or whatever in it, and there's no heart to that. There's no soul to this. So it's poetry is about learning how to experience life in a perhaps in a kaleidoscope way, or a you're learning how to see things from different angles and to try to see things in different ways that you can then teach other people to see. It's not about being a better wordsmith. That helps, but if it's just about your technical weaving of words on a page, your poetry will have no soul. It will not benefit you. You need to feel good writing poetry. You need to feel that it's healing. You do not need to feel like you're playing a crossword puzzle. All right, that's wrong. That's not how it works. Now, the better you get at it, there are people that do have just a sound for words, a great vocabulary, a great sense of how that vocabulary works, and they can weave together the fabric of sounds that is good to listen to. But that is anchored to a root, a central experience that people can appreciate thinking about and being reminded of and seeing from another angle. I'm going to read a few lines from Root Cellar. Nothing would sleep in that cellar, dank as a ditch. Bulbs broke out of boxes, hunting for chinks in the dark. Shoots dangled and drooped, lolling obscenely from mildewed crates. Hung down long, yellow, evil necks like tropical snakes. So now you can hear some of the rhyming, and you can hear some of the way that the letters are working together. All right, dank as a ditch. Bulbs broke out of boxes. The bees there. Alliteration, and sometimes technique. When you come to try to learn poetry or teach poetry, sometimes we are all guilty of substituting an easier task for the real one, which is a harder thing. And to sit there and say, well, poetry is about alliteration, is to miss the complexity of it. Alliteration can sometimes help if you do it right, and if you can feel the vowels moving down their scales, and uh, you know the dank ditch dark, that it's almost if you're walking down steps. Um, that can reinforce the meaning. And I think Redsky does it admirably here. And when you can rhyme things and it works because they are the right words in the right places, and they reinforce the poetic moment, then why not? Rhyming is part of the joy of it. But a poem is always grown from the inside out. You don't worry about the surface stuff until you see the poetic moment, the concept there that can grip somebody. And if you understand this poem and what it's talking about, you'll walk away with images or um, sounds. You'll remember words, phrases. Now that's why I coupled it with maybe the captivating phrase. I mean, I think that very first line, nothing would sleep in that cellar. Nothing would sleep in the cellar. You're going to remember those lines, and it's going to remind you of the poem, and it's going to remind you of what the poem is about. Nothing would sleep in that cellar. Everything was alive, fighting for its release. And then at the end, the last two lines, right? Nothing would give up life. Even the dirt kept breathing a small breath. That wording right there. Even the dirt kept breathing a small breath. Just and you're able to walk into that cellar and imagine that. You can imagine the dirt breathing. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And this poem is apparently all about just that, looking into a dark cellar and seeing these flower bulbs, trying to sprout and trying to live, living in surprising ways. I mean, there's something here that relates to that little piece of grass that shoots up through the concrete, and you're looking at this slab of concrete, and the grass is coming up to the crack, and here's a flower, or some sort of. That's amazing. I mean, that little seed never gave up down there and had enough nutrients within itself to send out that shoot, found the crack, and then as you let that grow and go, it starts developing the cracks as over the years as that grass keeps on coming up. But anyway, um, this is about the stubbornness of life, right? In a good way. And it's anchored to this moment of just walking into a cellar and paying attention and learning how to see, learning how to see.